The following is a conversation with Brad Cain. Brad is the owner of Gary W. Cain Realtors and Auctioneers, and he is one of my favorite people. I have worked for Brad for quite some time now, and I am grateful for all of the opportunities he has given me. Please enjoy my conversation with Brad Cain. So, Brad, first of all, thanks for taking the time out of your busy Sunday to sit down and talk with me. We'll just jump right into it. Kind of what I wanted to start with is a little bit of history of Cain Realtors and Auctioneers. Okay, so obviously you're a real estate broker, you're an auctioneer, but you weren't the first auctioneer in the family. Was Gary the first auctioneer in the family, or was his father, your grandfather, was he an
No,
auctioneer?
Gary was first,
Okay,
and then his father decided to be an auctioneer also.
so Gary was the first auctioneer, but then your grandfather decided to be an auctioneer after Gary decided to be an auctioneer. Okay.
So they went together.
About what? Just so I have kind of a picture in my mind. About what year did Gary become an auctioneer? Do you know?
It'd be the early 60s.
Early '60s. So you were born
I was born in 1960.
born in 1960. So you were already born whenever Gary decided to be an auctioneer. Okay.
So he started back in probably the late 50s doing some cattle auctions. He loved selling livestock, but we got into more of the real estate end in the early 60s.
And actually, you mentioned livestock and stuff like that. Actually, this you guys kind of started out as a butcher shop, right? Isn't that one of the first business endeavors that the Cains kind of got into?
Yep, we had the slaughterhouse and meat market, and people come and bought all kinds of meats and produce off of us till probably the late 60s, maybe early 70s, and we went away from that facet. We couldn't compete with the big meat companies anymore, and the things they required. My father said, we're not going to do this." Mm-hmm. So
I'm just curious whether or not you know, did the fact that you guys were in the meat business and the cattle business, did that have anything to do with stepping into the auction business? Like, hey, we're selling meat this way, maybe we can jump in the other way and start selling them while they're still alive.
my father always wanted to be a livestock auctioneer, full time. It just wasn't out there at that time to do it, and he phased himself more into the selling the real estate and auctioning pretty much anything that's out there. We can auction, as you know.
That's interesting. Livestock auctioneer, for whatever reason, I think is one of the more fun ones. I think it is fun. You got to be fast. You got to keep the crowd engaged. But it's nice. You don't have to lift anything.
No.
Right. You don't have to walk around. You get to just kind of sit there up on the stool and sell. So take as long as you want. Do you think you could kind of walk me through your introduction into the auction business and real estate business, and then just how it went from when did you know for sure that you were going to be an auctioneer?
The day I graduated from college.
Okay.
Up till that point, I didn't know what my focus was going to be, but I grew up in the business, with the meat market, and we had a slaughterhouse, pretty amazing. All my friends in first grade used to come home with me on a Monday and watch all that happen. So we grew up.
So okay, so let's take one more step back. You said that Gary and your grandfather, they got started auctioning cattle. That's kind of how they got started off.
A little bit, yeah, cattle and some farm stuff, and then just kind of grew over time.
It's just so hard for me to wrap my mind about what it would have been like, 50 years ago or more, how you would get into the auction business, because it's just so, I don't know, especially around in this area, it's just such a normal thing anymore around here, you know what I mean? But back then
he was quite innovative. I don't, where he was somewhere and seeing a cattle auction going, was just amazed at the auction, the process, and that kind of pushed him into going to that way.
So you went to West Liberty. I know you went to West Liberty. Business degree from
Yes.
West Liberty, right? Going through West Liberty, knowing that you were going to be in the auction real estate business, and so, do you remember your first auction by any chance?
I don't.
You don't really?
No. I just remember I was West Lib. I had to come home every weekend, and one or two of my buddies come home, work auction, make a little money, carry on, and then go back. And we did about every weekend.
And that's how I got into it. I mean, as you know, Taylor and I were friends in high school, and I remember the first auction I worked. You may or may not remember, it was the first auction I worked was right in the middle of downtown Steubenville. Taylor and I, basically, we were hired just to work security detail, not necessarily security like stand there like an armed guard or anything, but we had two separate places set up where we were selling things. In the front of the house, we had some tables loaded up with some things, and Taylor and I just had to watch them because the front porch looked right out onto like 3rd Street or 4th Street or something like that.
4th Street, yep.
And that was actually that was the day that, again, that was my first auction. That was the day that I met Tracy. Anyone who's ever walked around Steubenville a little bit, you might know who I'm talking about. Older fella, usually wears a red shirt. He'll talk to you if you look at him. So I met Tracy that day. That was the first. It was the first auction I worked, but it was the first auction I'd ever been to. And like a lot of people, I think I just kind of had maybe like a misconception of what an auction really was. A lot of people, they really only ever see them on TV. But that was my first one. And it was a great time. I was hooked right away. Now, the reason why I was hooked right away was because I was a teenager, and it paid well. And that day wasn't a very hard day. So I was like, man, yeah, I'd like to keep doing this. And that was the first time that I'd ever seen you sell. The first time I'd ever seen you, Gary, or any auctioneer sell at all. But I do remember, man, for sure, that whenever I heard you sell, you were the man. You were the man. You sounded good, man.
That was a long time ago.
But I do know that whenever I heard you sell and whenever I started kind of getting on the path myself, I always definitely looked to your type of bid calling. And, you know, I want to be able to sound like Brad one day. So I definitely worked on that. Now, I do know that, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but I'm still not entirely clear on how this all worked out. You used to, like, fly around the country and sell things, right?
I run into a gentleman at a 3-year class, once a year, 2 weeks, whatever, and he sold heavy equipment, and we got become friends, and he said, you want to auction with me? And he liked me, and in about 5 months, he had me in 5 different cities appraising and selling heavy equipment, big stuff. And he gave me a lot more insight how to sell and what to do. And since then, his company kind of slowed down, and I just couldn't get away like I used to. So it was Mike Honyati was his name, and he has a Honyati Auction Company. Tremendous person. So, yep.
Heavy equipment, that's another one of my favorite things to sell because you don't have to lift anything. And the only thing about heavy equipment is one thing, because we've sold heavy equipment many times. The only thing is I don't really know anything about it. You know what I mean? You got to kind of really make sure that you know your stuff. You know, like I always like to write things down when I'm selling heavy equipment, like what it is first of all, and then you got to know like hours and things like that. Also curious, I do know that you used to, and you're getting back into it a little bit more now. You used to ride your dirt bike a lot.
Yeah, I used to.
Right.
Once the kids got in their 30s, I said, well, I'm going to go do that again. So nobody cares when I go. I just come home safe.
That's cool. Did you ever, like, because I know you go to races and stuff all the time. Did you ever enter any races whenever you were younger?
Yeah, but all just amateur stuff, just local stuff. I didn't have a good mechanic, and my dad wasn't involved in dirt bikes. Excuse me. He wanted me to ride ponies all my life, and I rode ponies, got about 10 or 11, then I jumped on the dirt bike and didn't care about the pony anymore. So.
And I know that this is a hard question for anyone, really, because, you know, we kind of get on the paths that we're on, and then we don't really know anything different. But I'm just curious, because I wanted to ask you this today. I've never asked you this before. If you had not had auctioneering, real estate as the family business, what do you think you might have done? I'm just curious. It's a hard question to ask, because I mean, before you even answer, I'm essentially in the same business as you are, and I don't know. I mean, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You know what I mean? But did you ever have any other interests, or maybe some other avenue you might have gone down, or were you happy that you just kind of had that
I was
decision?
blessed to have a father. My father was an amazing person. People
I agree.
have no idea everything he's done. Hunted all over the world. Been in so many committees with the state of Ohio. They gave him a special honor for. He spent a lot of time in Columbus, not for himself personal, but for business, build business, and so I was blessed to I was lucky to slip right in there. And then my son Taylor, after he graduated from college, he's come back and he's selling with me also, part owner of the company, and he just had a baby a couple weeks ago.
That's right. Congratulations, grandfather Brad.
Yep, crew, James, Cain, and everybody's doing well. And I haven't picked him up yet. I'm going to wait till he's about 2 or 3. I thought, take him out on my bike or something. But no, that's really made it our year really nice.
Yeah, cool, man, cool. Now, one question, I asked Harry this the last time, and I'm just curious what you think about this, because I love being an auctioneer. I think it's fun. I hate real estate. The only reason why I have a real estate license is so I can auction a house if I ever need to.
Yep.
So the real estate side doesn't necessarily interest me. I dabble in it as much as I can whenever it's easy and convenient for me, which is never. But I really want to continue down this path of being an auctioneer. We do know that the way that things are moving now, that you have to have online auctions. We do not have online auctions yet, and we're working on that, and we will have them someday because we have no other option. We have to have them someday, and we will eventually. But do you think that there will always be a future for live auctions? Do you think there will always be a place for live auctions?
You know, I really didn't think this online stuff was going to go that well, and everybody's going to it. And if you don't have an online service, we aren't getting the auctions anymore. I still think it's a lot of work, but they're saying it's less money to set up. You know, you still don't do it. You got to still inventory everything. You got to be there, price it somewhat, have some. I mean, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but I mean, both live auction or an online auction, both of them are a lot of work. But the online auction, it would be different work. And what I like about a live auction, and what people should understand, that I think this is part of the charm of a live auction, is, I mean, yeah, you got to take your time to set it up and figure out how you want to do it and do things as efficiently as you can. But the goal most of the time, for us anyway, is to empty out a house in one day. Because a lot of times we're having the auction so we can also get the listing, and we will tell them, like, hey, we can auction off all this personal stuff for you, so then you don't have to worry about it. And again, oftentimes our live auctions, they don't make a terrible amount of money. But if you think of it this way, if you're a homeowner or someone who has inherited something from someone and you need to get rid of things, you can call us and we will get rid of it for you, and everyone will come to us. They will pay for it, and they will take it away. And then most of the time, the seller, the owner, they'll end up with a check. And it's like, wow, I just got paid for them to come in and empty out this house, and now I can sell it. But with the online, I just don't know. Like, online auctions would be great for things like cars, coins, highly collectible things that you really want to reach the widest audience that you can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, the personal property auctions that we do around here, at least most of the time, a lot of times it's household goods. There are vehicles, equipment, things like that. But really, I think we have a local audience. You know what I mean? We have a local audience, and I think we'll be okay with our we'll be okay with our live auction setup for a good while. I hope that it never goes away, because, and another thing that I'm trying to do is that, and I'm sure you know this, auctions used to be a thing to do. They used to be a thing to go to, right? I mean, it was almost like a live performance, like going to see live music or whatever. You can go see what kind of interesting things someone owns. Even if you didn't buy anything, you could kind of just go there, hang out if it's a nice day, meet some interesting people, have some lunch or whatever, and maybe you end up with a deal on something. And maybe you end up buying something you didn't even really know you needed, and now you bought it, and then you stick it in your garage for a year or two, and then you never use it.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
So back to what I asked you originally, because I really think that I don't think it's going to go away ever, because I think it's a good time and I don't want it to go away. Do you think that live auctions will always have a future?
You know, that's really up right now. I mean,
it really is.
I thought that online, when it first got into it, it's not going to go. It's not going to go. And I mean, the big companies are doing a lot of online. I like the live. People around here aren't ready for the live online. They want to touch the thing, look at it. You know, they're afraid to bid on something around here. There's a play. You know, it's just, but it's coming. And you know, a lot of the big companies are really going to it.
And that is one of the, I actually kind of lost my train of thought, but one of the things you just said is one of the reasons why I think, especially around here with our local crowd, and I mean, we have regular customers that we know, we have good relationships with. they like to touch it before they buy it. And I mean, with an online auction, you can have a preview day. You know, a lot of auction companies do that. They
do
have
a
a day.
preview,
Yeah, they lay the stuff out. You can come and touch it and everything. But and again, your goal as an auctioneer is always to make as much money as you can for your seller. Okay, and online auctions probably the way to do that. But I think that quite often that if you're having a live auction, I think you really can get another bid or two out of a person if they're looking right there at it and they're like,
I
man,
agree.
I'm gonna own that thing right now. I'll go ahead and bid one more time. If you're sitting at your computer desk, you might be like, you know what? I don't really feel like going out there to get that thing,
Right.
whatever.
I'm not driving to North Canton.
Right. And the same thing, if you're there live in person, you're like, well, I drove all the way out here today. I'm not going to lose it for $100. I'll bid one more time, right? So, the live auctions, I hope they're not going anywhere because I plan on doing them for the rest of my life. Even if I only do it in like a charity capacity. You know, we do a lot of charity auctions. The fair auction, the livestock auction, one of my favorite auctions of the year. The Edison Steak Fry auction, that is my favorite auction of the year. We always have a great time at that one. And we do that. We donate our time for that. And I am totally fine with that because auctioneering is fun for me. That is why I like to do it, and that's why I plan to keep doing it. Couple more questions. What is the most unusual thing that you've ever sold that you can think of?
You know, people ask me, I've sold so much stuff. I don't have anything that's stuck in my. I'm sorry. I mean, you know, after 30, 40 years, you know, doing this, my father probably could tell. He always had a couple favorites that he did. You know, you've been to them. We have a lot of unique stuff we've got to sell. You know, people have no idea what it is till we tell it who it is.
Mm-hmm. Harry's answer, he said he sold an embalming table one
That's
time.
right, I remember
which
that, yes.
was incredibly strange.
Yep.
My go-to answer for that usually is the taxidermy bear that we sold down at the Smithfield School.
Yep.
That's usually my favorite thing.
It was a full bear, and one of our workers said, "I'll go up to $100 on it." He brought like what, 800 or so.
It brought like 1,200, 1,300. Yeah, I mean it was really cool. It was really laid out like it was a full stuffed bear.
You know.
Yeah, it was like a branch that was laying across it. Also that same day we sold a lot of taxidermy stuff that day. We sold like a cheetah head. We sold I can't even remember. Probably some things we weren't even supposed to sell.
I know. Yeah. You know, when you do say that, I remember when I was young and we had an auction down in Dillonville and it had a piano, baby grand, and they had a Saint Bernard they had stuffed and put under there. And taxidermy at that time wasn't real good, but it was pretty funny. That guy hanging under and we sold it.
You sold a stuffed Saint Bernard. Did you sell the piano too?
Yeah.
Did you sell it at an incredibly low price?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, isn't it, man? You never get what a piano is worth. I know we sold a baby grand piano one time at auction for like $500, and I'm sure it was like a $10,000-$20,000 piano or something. That pianos are, you want to talk about something that just is not a good investment unless you're unless you're a good like a professional musician or something like that. Pianos aren't the best investment. It's sad.
Nobody wants them,
and they're heavy. They're heavy. It takes like 6 professional guys to get pianos out of the house.
They're buying keyboards now.
Right, and that's the move. I mean, if you're trying to learn how to play the piano, you might as well just buy a keyboard.
Yeah.
And this is a tough one. This is a tough one to answer, I think, anyway, because you can go either way. But do you have a favorite item that you like to sell? Something that maybe you like to sell more than another thing. Like let's both admit right now, I'm sure you share my feeling. I don't care for selling glassware. Nobody cares for selling it. Nobody cares for buying it anymore. It used to be a hot item, but not necessarily anymore. Do you have something that is like a favorite?
I really enjoy when we do sell guns, and we do it the proper way. We make sure that when you're bidding, you're capable of buying, and we do a run-through background check if we're off-site somewhere. But guns really sell well, and we don't have bad people buying them. Oh, you're going to give them, they're guys show up, they're pretty legit, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, usually, I enjoy selling guns too. Guns are one of my favorite things to sell too. And you're right, we usually do. Gun buyers are always a good crowd. They do seem to be a pretty squared away bunch of people. Guns are definitely one of my favorite things to sell. My favorite things to sell, this is how I try to explain it to everybody. I like to sell things that hold their value, which guns do. We've sold guns for more than what they're worth before. I like to sell things that hold their value and things that have a function or a use right now. Things like cars, tools. You know what I mean? Something that you could even potentially make money with. You know what I mean? I am not. Now listen. I'll sell anything. You know, I enjoy selling everything, and I generally sell everything the same way. You know what I mean? I represent everything like I would, whether it's a dollar plate to, you know, a $5,000 gun or a $10,000 car, whatever. I try to just sell everything the same and not be biased or have a different opinion about anything. But I don't really get too excited about collectible things like
Knickknacks,
knickknacks,
Hummels.
Hummels, definitely not. Like even like trading cards, old toys. Now those things are fun and like they really provoke some nostalgia and they're fun to dig around and be like, oh, I remember this or like stuff like that. But that's kind of like glassware. How the glassware market has just going down right now, and it's because there was a time whenever everyone decided to agree that these pieces of glassware are valuable, and then everyone hoarded it for a good 10 or 20 years, and now we're seeing that stuff did not hold its value.
No,
it
no,
really
the young
didn't.
people don't want that.
No, they don't.
You
They
know,
don't.
we're fine.
Now the only thing anymore that like the value of glassware anymore, I think that it has is it can be a piece of history. You know what I mean? Things like, especially like things around here, like Homer Laughlin stuff, Fiesta. People are still into Fiesta around here.
Yep.
Steubenville Pottery. Steubenville Pottery usually sells pretty good still, not like it used to. I remember we used to sell China sets, not just Steubenville Pottery, but we used to sell China sets for a few $100. You know what I mean? And it's in like 5-10 different boxes, and
Lennox China,
and we got to like carry it super carefully to the buyer.
That's the thing we've seen is the market for the China and that type of stuff. Just Lennox China, it used to be $200 for a set. If we get $10 for it, we're begging anymore. People don't want it.
Yeah, and thank goodness for like we talked about some of our regular customers that we have. Like there are times
we just beg them, please take it.
There are times, man, whenever we're selling something, and we'll just like look to somebody we know that they'll buy it if it's low enough, and they know that we're struggling right now. Like, hey, man, will you please buy this real fast? And then at the end of the day, you're like, dude, thanks for coming today.
We got some good clients that come to our auction. A lot of funny people, all kinds of different type people.
We do, and I tell you what, we really don't ever have very many problems with our crowd. The only time I can't even think of a specific instance, but the only time I think that we ever have any problems with our crowd usually is if it's like a newer person to the auction game, someone who just isn't really familiar with the process, or someone who thinks that they got cheated in some way. But like any ethical businessman, we try to be as fair as we can. And I think that, as far as buying and selling something at auction is one of the fairest ways to get it done, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
So I really don't think I have any more questions, man. I think this was a good time.
I just want to say, my father, tremendous person, and he really thought a lot of Clint here. He never got around to it. He said, I want to take him up to the state of Ohio as an auctioneer contest, live auction bidding, and he knows Dad doesn't that you're capable of being a state champ. You're that good. And we said we can do it this year again. Me, I get so darn busy that we got to do it one year before you get
it's definitely on my mind to do, and I really appreciate that you brought this up, because that actually was.
We got to make it.
That was
Dad's
like
been gone 3 years, still haven't done it.
That was the last thing that Gary and I talked about. And he told me that. He was like, hey, I think you need to get into the bid calling contest, because I think you would be really good at that. And I'm definitely going to do it someday. One, because I think it'll be fun. It'll just be fun to do. But the main reason, because Gary did say that, and I did. He did. It meant the world to me whenever he said that. And I'd like to take this time to thank you for everything you've done for me, Brad. I definitely wouldn't be sitting here, definitely wouldn't be an auctioneer if it wasn't for you needing some punk kid to, lift a couch for you back when I was in high school. But again, man, I really do.
And who in the family does not want anything to do with auctioneering?
Oh, Taylor Kane.
My son, he said, I didn't work all my life and go to college to carry boxes. You're not carrying your auction, but he just never been, didn't want. I mean, he helps a lot when we need him, but he don't want to sit in front of people and call and do that.
No, yeah, he's not real interested in it. That's why we need to make sure that we hold our interest in it and make sure we make it exciting and keep making it worthwhile.
I agree.
So again, man, thanks for sitting down with me. It's Sunday. It's 1:30 on a Sunday. We could both be doing better things. But
you tell him what I'm gonna have to do today.
Brad's got to go pick up a stove today, right?
I was carrying groceries in last night, and I swung around, and one can in the bag hit the center of my oven. It shattered the whole thing. I mean, it was like on the floor. So now we're figuring if we can even find one today.
Well, yeah, we talked about that off air before we got on here. If you can't find one today, I'll bet you'll be able to find one at our next auction. It might not be ideal, but it'll probably cook your food for you.
Yeah, I told her we'll drag an old one, and we got down in the basement. We're not going to do that. We're going to go get a nice oven. So that's what we're going to do today. And everybody, God bless. And if you need anything, give us a call. We're here.
Yeah. Thanks again, Brad.
All right. Thank you.
Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation with Brad Cain. I always enjoy talking to Brad, and I was grateful for this opportunity to show him my appreciation for all the things he's done for me. Without Brad, I would not be an auctioneer, and I would not be the person I am today. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation with Brad Cain.